So again, good afternoon. We will start with our webinar, Object Manager Advanced 365. We start with a quick introduction of IDIN and the agenda, and then I will hand it over to our senior developer to show you some details of our app, Object Manager Advanced. So this is we, located in the southern part of the Netherlands in a medieval castle, really focusing on Business Central. So these days we call ourselves an app specialist for Business Central. For today, I've got also in the meeting Co Splinter. He's a senior developer and he will guide us through the demo. My name is Frans Scheeme. I work for the sales department. So any related sales questions or other questions you can send to me, but that's coming later on in the webinar back on the table. Today, this is what we're doing on the Business Central platform. We have 6 apps. Today, we talk about our development part, Object Manager Advanced 365, but we have also solutions which integrate with third-party applications like Shipper 365 for simplify your shipping. Main benefit of Shipper 365 is that within Business Central, in the order flow or logistic flow, you can book your transport with your selected carrier and print directly all your shipment labels and other transport documentation. And there we collaborate with so-called carrier platforms for the carrier connections. Then we have also integration with banks. That's called our app Direct Banking. Simplify your banking. We have about 2,000 European banks available and 50,000 banks globally with 2 different platforms. Tomorrow we have the webinar about direct banking. But the main idea here is that you can synchronize directly your bank statements in Business Central. So no more files to download at the bank and upload in Business Central. Your reconciliation journal is ready in the morning and all lines are reconciled by the automatic reconciliation part in the direct banking app. And of course, you can send also the payments through direct banking directly to the bank for approval there. Then we have Approve It 365. That's our integration with DocuSign and SignHost. Basically, what it does is that every Business Central document, like a sales quote or purchase order or whatever type of document, you can send directly from the document in Business Central to your business partner, your vendor, supplier, or your customer. And the business partner can the document approve online through DocuSign or SignHost, and then the signed document is coming back into Business Central or as a storage. And of course, the business partner will receive also a copy of the signed document. Then we have Connected 365. That's our generic integration app. So if you install Connected 365, you don't need any middleware. All data in Business Central you can export to third-party application or to import data from a third-party application or other data source into Business Central. And to do so, you have quite a lot of technology available to set up the integration. Can be done very traditional by a CSV file and an FTP server, but also through an API, a REST API, a SOAP service, whatever there is, it's in connected. So it is cool to set up integration with Business Central and third-party application. And the big advantage is no more middleware needed. And because it's running in Business Central itself, you have for setting up the integration, all business logic direct available. To do something with the data you import from another application. And last but not least, that's a small app we call Dino 365. It's only available on App Store, so it's no on-prem version. Through Wizard, you can add all kinds of fields to pages. And this is the first app where you can also pay for the usage of the app in the app itself. So it's also a little experiment from our side with payments. But now we're going to hand over to the Object Manager. We'll skip this one. We have a couple of topics today. Koos will start with a general introduction of the Object Manager 365, only available for on-prem because Microsoft is hitting us hard. We can't make it available for cloud due to some technical restrictions by Microsoft. And Koos will also show us the main features and tools what are available in Object Manager. And last but not least, also the possibilities to convert code from CL to AL. That's part of the solution we offer as well. Then we have a new release coming up. I'll show that after the demo of Koos. And of course, you can send us some questions and we try to answer them as good as possible. If not, we will reach out by mail or a Teams call to you. So Koos, please take it over for me and show us the possibilities of Object Manager 365 for Business Central on-prem.
I will do so, Frans. Thank you. I hope everybody can hear me, and I will start sharing my screen. Good afternoon, by the way. My name is Koos. I'm a developer since already a few years, something like 26 in the NAV world. And today is my task to show you something of OMA 365, some generic introduction for people who do not know OMA yet, and then we'll dive into some features that have been added to the on-prem Business Central app a little later. So in general terms, OMA is Object Manager Advanced. In short, OMA been here since I think the old classic NAV installation since I think 2008 or 9, and it's mainly the tool is mainly meant to manage your objects, right? So have.
Just sorry to interrupt. Can you enlarge the screen a little bit because it's quite small?
Is it too small?
Yeah, it's small. Yeah, it's too small. Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Something like this?
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah, this is even better. Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
Sorry about that. I can't see that on my monitor. Right. So as I will show you, the app is normally installed as an app itself. So down here, OMA 365, it has been installed as a dev app, but it can also be a PTE, of course. And what the main purpose of this tool is that we monitor, we watch your objects from a developing perspective. So in here you see the role center, and it has all kinds of things that I will dive into a little bit later. But the purpose is to analyze your objects, even store copies of your objects if you make changes to them. So inside Object Manager, there is some kind of a repository of the things you are developing. In the old days, it was FOBs and text objects in CAL. In the new days, we talk about AL files coming from a Visual Studio code environment. And I will show you how that works in a moment. But first, I've prepared a sample example. So I've imported a little app that I created yesterday with just a simple table, a list page, a card page, and a code unit. And then we're going to see how OMA is going to analyze that. So whatever the only thing you have to do for that is to create a new one. Here, you are able to add a database extension, an extension that you some extensions you don't have a development folder, but you do have the app. So if it's part of the database, you can import that, and it will analyze the tables and all kinds of other objects inside that app. Or you, as I'm showing you here, it's a file system extension. I have my working folder locally, and I just point to the app.json file, and I import all the objects belonging to that app. Now, having said that, this will be the result, and I will start and finalize continue the demo a little bit later with some extensive guideline checks and where used analysis. Basically, these tools are one of the main features of Object Manager. So where used is about, of course, how are objects related to each other. Where are you using a table? Where is my field being used on pages, on reports, in code units, etc., etc. And the main purpose of where used is that it brings you some kind of matrix overview of, in this case, a very simple table that's only being used a few times, right? So this on insert trigger is used in my sample code unit, and diving through that kind of information, it's a matter of snipping the code like this. So it's now actually opening my AL file and see what's happening. So it's not only a matter of the where used itself. I mean, I can text search in Visual Studio Code and find the name of my code unit or whatever, but this is also about how the object is being used, right? So it's either control on a page, it's a piece of AL code, it's a table relation, it's whatever. So not only the usage itself, but it's also explaining something about how it's being used. And then in a matrix like this, you can drill down on whatever you think is interesting. You can even make a distinction between, is a field being filled at some point in time? Is it validated? How many variables is it using? How many parameters, if it's a function? That kind of thing is very, very useful when it comes to developing an external app. Right, so having said that, a few features that I'm not going to show, but at least going to talk about. For example, my analysis tools is about, of course, check guidelines. I will get back to that later, but it's also possible with Object Manager 365 to access other databases. So, for example, you have a development environment with a bunch of apps, and you're developing against that, but you also have a test environment, you have a production environment, or whatever. In OMA, it is possible to set up any reference to any other database, and with respect to the apps you have or the source code you have on your development side, it's very well possible to compare that against a test environment that is a completely other database. The only thing you have to do in OMA is set up a link to the other database, and you're good to go, and you can do database left to right comparisons, whatever you need. You can even start focusing on table objects and differences between databases and field and file structures itself. So it's very, very advanced in terms of accessing object-related information. And then in the object tooling, I will show you the where used and the guideline checks and things like that as promised. But there is much and much more. For example, there's a wizard that helps you set up a new set of objects, like a table, a list page on top of that, a card page on top of that, and maybe some default properties like not blank properties on primary keys and things like that. Easy properties that you tend to forget when you do those things manually are handled by OMA the correct way. So it doesn't forget your caption, it doesn't forget your properties left or right, and it's very strong. It's like what do you want to create? You want to create an extension, you want to create a folder, and then it's just a matter of providing it some properties like the name and if it's regarding tables, which fields in those tables and which pages on top of those tables, and then you press the create button and you get your bunch of AL files within seconds rather than them doing it manually within an hour. Good. Some other tools to mention. There is a update variables process. So once you have your bunch of objects, it is possible that with the use of OMA, that you do not only analyze it, but even clean it up. It's like a refactoring possibility inside the tool. The tool just picks up an AL file and it analyzes the sorting of your variables, the deletion of unused variables, and that kind of things. And it's just updating existing code to a better state within just a few clicks. There's a translation possibility inside. So basically, it's able to read the captions from your app file, put them in OMA tables, and then give you the opportunity to add missing captions, maybe proofread existing captions and things like that. And after having the tool analyze all the caption strings, it can then write it back to your objects and or your XLIF files if you want that. Then some other things like file functions. Basically, the functionality inside OMA is focusing on an app that you, sorry, a bunch of source files that you imported, like I did here. But it's also possible to apply OMA functionality on things outside your database. So it's like a bunch of AL files, text files in the old days with CAL. It could then apply OMA functionality on things that you do not have in your database, or maybe you don't want it in your database. That's also possible, of course. Then some last comments on the administration stuff. Everything you see in the functionality, and it's like a really bunch of possibilities that we have, like integration with external compare tools, to integration with PowerShell. Everything is configurable. Like for example, the guidelines, we have a bunch of coding checks, layout checks, like how are controls rendered on a page and things like that. Data checks, are you using correct types of primary keys and things like that. The naming of your variables, everything you can, just as an example here, coding checks, the most popular, I think, in the world of developers. Indentation, if then else usage, true and false constants in Boolean comparisons, things like that. There's a lot that you can either enable because you like the type of check, or you disable it because you don't like the type of check. So everything is configured out of the box. You don't have to do this manually. The installation of the app comes with a bunch of default data automatically. Right. So basically, you can switch on and off everything you like. You can even tell the database that you are a multi-language installation, so ENU and or Dutch is a required caption inside all your objects. If you only have a W1 installation, then it's probably something like this. And after putting in parameters like this, you're good to go. Now let's go for the first demo example in the guideline stuff. As I showed you here, is a very simple code unit, but I've injected something like a little problems, little ugly pieces of developing, so to speak. So I have begin ends that don't belong there. I have missing semicolon, things like that. I have buffers that are not exactly the same size, but I'm assigning big things in small buffer areas, things like that. So although this is fully functional and fully compiling, it may have some problems that you are not aware of. So that's what I mean by guideline checks. So if we are in OMA, then you see down here that it's, after importing the app file, it automatically has a reference to every AL file that's part of the app. And it's potentially checking on comments. So I'm not going to sort it like this. I want it here. So the only thing you have to do is press the check guidelines, and it is bringing you a list of problems. So coding problems, for example, and a little bit of data. And the data is the overflow that I told you about. I'm putting 100 bytes potentially into 50 byte buffers. So that's not really a good idea in real life. So it will lead, of course, to runtime errors. the good thing is that OMA is capable of detecting problems like this. Typically, things that work fine without the brackets, unless you are working in a multi-language environment, because W for update calculation date is not the same as the J in Dutch, so to speak. So the J works, but the W should be embraced in brackets. So these kind of things, even having the variables but not using them at all, I'm calculating a date and that's it for the local variable. So it's like even those things are detected by OMA automatically. So out of the box, there are potentially a few problems. Now, I will start repairing a few. So I will put in the brackets. I'm not even pressing the save button. And I go back to OMA. And I can press the check object here, or I go back one step and I do it from here. And if I press check guidelines, it now pops to 7 because my date problem has now been removed. And as I said, I didn't, because Visual Studio Code in my installation is auto-saving the files. So whenever I do my work here, OMA is aware of it here, right? So back to the problems again. I can then fix my buffer problem. Up. And fix it again. And now I have only 6 left. So in this respect, I'm just cleaning up my code and finding potential problems. And to be very honest, there's a lot that the Visual Studio Code compiler can detect while doing your development work. It's a lot better than it used to be in CAL life, but still there are things that the compiler simply doesn't care about. So there's a lot that OMA puts on top of that as being even more strict than the Visual Studio Code compiler itself. All right. Now back to it even gets better. So you get the point here. There are a few issues. It points you to that, and it's up to you to either fix them or live your life on with it, having the same problem. Now, let's go back to the main menu and go to, let's see, the object tools. Where is it? No, that one. Check guidelines again. No, I don't want the file to do that. Analyzing tools. This is what I meant. Right. This is basically a lot of stuff that is part of the database, but not necessarily of that simple app that I had, the sample app here. But the point is exactly the same. Here's my code unit that I'm about to repair. But it's not only a matter of detecting problems. OMA is also capable of auto-fixing it for you, right? So we have now currently 6 problems. We saw that already. But if I press update and autocorrect, it will do the work for you. Because now, if you look at the code, it now is the problem are now reduced to 3. One of them is still the text constant. The other one is the unused parameter. I mean, yes, maybe it's a problem, but OMA can't do very much about it. It will not remove the parameter or something stupid like that. It will just keep telling you that it's coming in, but nothing happens with it. Basically that. But it has done some other stuff. So if you pay attention here, the begin end is gone. My semicolon has been injected automatically, and maybe something else. I can't remember what the other thing was. But basically, OMA has picked up the object, and since it knows the solution for at least a subset of the problems, it can inject automatically the solution for you. So, and of course, this for the sake of the demo, it's very simple and very understandable. But if you have 5,000 objects containing stuff like this, it is very useful to have OMA at least clean up a lot of stuff that you otherwise have to do manually. Right. Now, the last feature that concerning the guideline checks that I was going to tell you about is the possibility not only to I'm telling you that I'm not doing it anything with, but suppose you have problems while doing your development work, but you're not going to fix it for some reason. So basically, maybe you don't have time now, or you don't want to fix it at all, but it's still an issue. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do. You can switch off the check, so it will not tell you about a certain type of problem. But you can also say, okay, I have analyzed my object. I see 3 potential problems, but I want to set them aside. I want to ignore the fact that they are there. But if I make a new mistake, I want to see that. And basically, with the check guidelines, it is possible. Then let me set things as known comments. So basically, it will ask you for a date, let's say today, and if you then press the OK button, it will set the issue aside to the known comments here. And whenever it's new, it will be put here, but when it's known issue, until the new issue comes in, it will look like you don't have a problem unless you make a new one, right? So it's like making your life easier until you finally start deciding that you're going to fix things. Right. Then another topic is conversion. A lot of partners out there and developers are struggling with the fact that there are old installations with CAL, maybe a mix of installations, CAL, and also already developing activities on BC, either in the cloud or on-prem. There's the kind I've been running around this mixed world over the last maybe 8-9 years, and there's always the trade-off. We have a solution in CAL. We are slowly going into AL, but I mean there is a tool from Microsoft called what's it called, TXT2AL. It gives you the opportunity to pick up your text files, run them through the tool, and get a bunch of resulting AL files out of that automatically. Well, for the majority of the things automatically. OMA has this very same functionality, so we are fully capable of converting objects, but we are also capable of downgrading objects. So for example, I have AL files. This is my sample table from the app that I showed you a few moments ago. But I want to go back. I want to go back to, well, you can see it here. I can even go back to NAV 360, which is maybe 2002 or so, maybe even earlier. I don't remember. But suppose I have a version in the old CAL file or world, and I want to reuse my code that I already have on my BC platform. That's a perfectly normal situation. I have code. I've made a super intelligent code unit in AL, and now I have a customer, and I want basically the same functionality in CAL. So then I go back, right? So I just press convert, and you've seen the table already. I will show you in a moment here. If you look at the table, there's nothing wrong. It's very simple. Just a primary key integer field and a name field. That's it. But that's not the point. I now want to create a text file in the CAL format. So I just press convert, and the result will be, again, I put it in the same folder here so we can have a look at it automatically. But this is the good old CAL version of this very same file that I produced in AL. So that's one step. And why are we doing this? Well, as I said before, it can be very useful to downgrade code because you have old installations here and there. But the other reason why I did this is that I want to show you the upgrade, because I need something in CAL. I don't have a CAL database running currently. So where do I get my files without searching through a lot of dungeons in my hard drive? I now want to go back. So the results you've seen, and if I now, sorry, not that one here. If I want to convert things, then, and of course I've already tried it a few times today, but I'm telling you, sorry, I'm telling OMA now that I have an old CAL file and it's in this format. I could also have done it the other way around, of course, and I want to change it to AL, but based on the context of a CAL file. So now if I press convert and I switch to Visual Studio Code, now you see the errors popping up because this has already been interpreted as a new file, but it has exactly the same name and object number. So, but that's not the point, of course. It misses some properties, of course, like the original did have here, the data classification stuff, because there's really no way the tool can know that kind of defaults for the properties. So, but apart from that, it's a fully functional, and let's just give it a new number and a new name, and we're good to go. I mean, I didn't press any other button and I'll let OMA do all the work. But technically, I've now created out of nowhere an object that could have come from an old NAV whatever system, and it can be very old. Believe me, we've seen examples from NAV 17, NAV 18, but I've also seen examples from even a NAV 360 or a NAV 5 database that is processed correctly. So in that respect, it's very useful to let OMA do the big bunch of work. And yes, I promise you that you will find some code units that contain .NET implementations of things from 15 years ago, and you really don't know what to do with it in AL. Yes, of course, but then you have like 99% of a converted set of objects and some issues to fix. It's the very same thing with TXT to AL, by the way. But OMA basically picks it up, and the very strong thing in two ways, as I explained earlier. Right. Let's remove it from here. I don't need it, of course. Like this. Whoop. Now back to OMA again. Okay. From a generic perspective, as I said, I think Frans mentioned it also in the introduction. Why are we on-prem? OMA needs to be on-prem, but not the apps that we are analyzing and maintaining using OMA, right? We are on-prem because we do things with local folders, and it's very difficult to have that same technology in an environment that's in a cloud installation. But from a usability perspective, if you have a simple, and this is just a Cronus BC25, I think it's 1 year old currently, installed locally, that's it. And then OMA app inside, and you're good to go. The apps that we are maintaining may very well be apps that you publish on the cloud instance on BC. Doesn't matter if it's BC 25, 26, or even 27 of the last few weeks. It is irrelevant. OMA needs to be on-prem itself, but not the things that come out of OMA, right? So it's not the restriction that you may be afraid of when seeing the first publications. Only a very technical reason that we are not in the cloud with this tool. Right. Oh, sorry, that's a misclick. A few words on what OMA does in the background is maintaining, as I said, there's some kind of a repository system, and we are not trying to replace Git or something like that. It's fully functional in Visual Studio Code if you install it correctly. The only thing we need for performance reasons is that we keep track of changes ourselves. And you see that happen when I was typing here, things were happening here. And that is because we automatically, we are monitoring the folder of your app, your working folder, and then we do things inside OMA to provide you the functionality that we need. And one of those things is that we keep history of objects. If I show you a little bit of filters to show you what I mean. If you look at my object here, my code unit, I've been playing around with that already a lot. And oh, sorry, this one here. We keep track of everything that we change. But not only that, we have, I think, as I showed you in the setup, we have a compare tool. So if I point to 2 versions, I can even launch a compare tool to show you the differences between my last change is down here somewhere, or the difference between this and that, or this and that. Everything is possible, but even we have the possibility to fall back, to roll back. And yes, I know you can with your Git repository system or whatever system you use, you can do exactly the same. You point to 2 versions, and you either replace the new one with something old, or you merge things like. But we are fully capable of doing exactly the same thing using OMA, because since we have the history, we might as well give you the results. So if I press the restore button, I could fall back to this one, and that becomes a new one. So then my changes would be rolled back or of some kind. Yeah, well, that. Right, back to the main. All right. Of course, OMA can analyze objects. It's just one of the features that pops to my mind when I see this topic here. It's perfectly possible that, suppose your license does not give you access to a certain set of objects, then OMA will constantly bump into the. I mean, why would you import something that you cannot analyze in the first place? That's one good thing. But suppose there's something inside your database as an extension reference or something like that you do not want OMA to touch, then you can simply add it to some kind of ignore list, and OMA will not try and analyze things that will run into licensing or permission errors or things like that. It's simply a matter of telling OMA, yes, we have some objects over here, but please ignore them. Don't try to open them. Don't try to read them. Don't try to update them. Nothing. Just let them be. Right. One other tool that it's kind of a technical topic, but I still want to mention it. I don't know if you guys are all developers or have knowledge of either CAL or AL development, but if you are a little bit familiar with posting routines, then you know that an invoice suddenly becomes a posted invoice, and the functions to do that, transferring the data from one record buffer to the other record buffer, done by transfer fields. And transfer fields is like one line of code that copies a complete sales header into a posted sales header. But with respect to the transfer field works on the fact that it needs field numbers to do the copying on, and OMA is especially very good in detecting maybe some additional fields that you added to a table extension, but you forgot things on the sales header, but you put it on the posted sales header, or the other way around. Basically, all differences that have to do with data validation and data copying are analyzed by OMA, wherein your AL file, there's nobody will prevent you from using the wrong field numbers, and those kind of changes and those kind of mistakes will lead to runtime errors. And that's one of the special kind of very good checks that OMA has, is that it recognizes transfer fields usage and tell you about fields that will be copied from one environment to the other, without realizing that you are trying to put a date in a text field or a text in an integer or things like that. So OMA will very easily warn you for those things that will, in production environments, lead to runtime errors very, very easily. Right. I think I am more or less done, Frans, with the little demo here.
The where used functionality maybe goes?
Sorry?
Where used?
I've shown that in the beginning of the demo, Frans.
Maybe already in the beginning, yeah.
That's done. Well, I can show it again if you like, but wait a sec. I showed you again. That's the matrix that I was talking to you in the first 5 minutes. If you look at the where used of this table object, and there's the matrix that tells you where the object is used in the first place here. So in my code unit on 2 pages, and then here is the matrix that explains what type of usage it is.
Yeah, because this was one of the most popular tools in the object
Yes,
management for NAV. You get so much feedback on this one.
To be very honest, Frans, it was super popular in CAL, because CAL was a very bad tool in terms of telling knowledge about objects. In the AL world, the Visual Studio Code, it is those features inside the environment itself have already. It's not as good as OMA, but and not as clean as the type of usage. But Visual Studio Code is better than what it used to be in CAL compiler, in the nav compiler in the old days. All right.
I've got one question, Koos. In the number of subscribers, I do not see in the header info, only in the lines. Why it's not in the header?
Sorry, I see the question, but I'm trying to understand what you mean. In the number of subscribers, I do not see it in the header info, only in the lines. I do see something like number of subscribers here. What's wrong with that? Here and here. So this will be populated. This will be some kind of a flow field adding up this one here, I guess. So I don't understand the maybe I don't understand the question, but I can see the number of subscribers here in the header, right? Anyway, Frans, can you take back the screen, please, and we can do some wrap up and.
Yeah, I've got one more question for Rama. Will the where used work by picking up usage in another extension?
Yes.
I guess
but
so. Yes.
You have to tell OMA that you want to analyze an extension. So if the extension is here, yes, it's like, or maybe it's part of the base app. Maybe you made a table or page extension on top of the base app, or you have a separate extension that has dependencies on your app. In both ways, if you have it on board here, it will be treated as if it's part of the bigger total.
Okay, thank you. If you have more questions, you always can reach out to sales email address that's popping up on the screen in a minute, and we give you feedback. So I'm going to share my screen again. So this was the demo provided by Koos. We have also a new release ready. OMA 16.06. Normally you can download that from our download portal through our website, but the download portal is being renewed by some new software. So we have it available from BC 15 and up for OMA 365 on-prem, but we have it also still available for NFV 2013 and up. So that's the classical OMA for NFV CL, including fixing the breaking changes in the new BC versions if you use the conversion tools in Object Manager. You can acquire a new version if you just send an email to sales@idin.nl, also your questions. And we, of course, check if you have a valued OMA 365 subscription or you're still in active maintenance of OMA for NAV. If that's so, we send you the new version directly. Our download portal will be ready in the next coming week, so we will also send you an email about that for future version you can use our download portal portal again. So if you have any questions, please send it to the chat. Otherwise, we're going to close this session. Thank you for joining us today. So again, if you have any questions, just send us an email. We pick it up from there. And hopefully see you next time. And success with Object Manager Advanced. One more thing to say, maybe for everybody. If you have an active maintenance on your OMA for NFV, you're also allowed to use OMA 365 for free. That's in the maintenance contract as well. So if you want to have OMA 365, reach out to us by sales@idin.nl. We send you a license key, the software we send you, and you can start working with OMA 365 as well. If you don't have an active maintenance, of course, we have the subscriptions OMA 365 also. So please send us an email and we can work it out. Thank you for joining us. I just double check quickly if there is any question left, and otherwise we gonna close this session for today. No, there are no more questions. Thanks again, and hopefully we see each other next time. Oh, there's one more question there's some questions popping up. I'm not looking very well. Jurgen, thank you indeed. Have a nice day. That was the final questions. And also thank you, Jochem, for your comment. See you. Bye-bye.
IDIN. Simplify your workflow. Explore the perfect fit for your industry at idin.nl.